Yeah, okay. Erhan, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So apparently everybody else is seeing the current slide. So
Okay.
then I suggest we continue. Yeah,
Yes.
good. Great.
All right. So over to you for the second use case. It's
Yes,
also a word, I had to learn. It's swivel chair, right?
the
Swivel
swivel
chair.
chair scenario,
A swivel chair.
exactly.
Okay.
Well done, Mamia.
Okay.
Good. Right, that's our second use case we'll be covering today. Again, we'll be meeting our customer Simona. She has been, as we've just seen, she's been entering a contract with One Mobile, and she's been super happy with that offering, with the service provided. No issues about that. Plus, she's super happy because she is starting a new job. And that new job actually contains that she's working mainly from home. And she realized that in order to do her job most properly, she has to get a faster internet connection, right? More broadband here. So what she's doing is she's extending or upgrading her contract. That's obviously something that's easily doable because One Mobile, they are aware of their current contract, and they can then see what would best suit Simona based on the package she's had before. Now she can simply be upgraded. Everything's fine for a couple of days until that one morning she's sitting there ready to get to work, realizing that her internet is not working anymore. So internet is down for some reason. And then we have, as another persona, we have Chris. He's our very motivated customer service agent at One Mobile Service Center. He, well, as you can see, he's very passionate about customer service, about what he's doing. He really wants to provide the best-in-class service and fast resolutions to his customers. So everything that a customer is having issues with is coming to his attention, be that any certain specific requests, claims that may then also lead to refunds, etc. That's all what he's been working with on a daily basis. If we are taking a closer look on how such a routine may be looking like, we do have a customer Simona calling service customer support of One Mobile, and Chris then takes that call. So what happens first of all is a short authentication by Simona, by her customer data, contract ID, etc. And then the issue is being presented to Chris. So what Chris does based on this, he's opening up a case, he's working with Service Cloud, and then he has all these different checklists available and systems where he can check on what could be a potential reason behind the issue that Simona is experiencing. So he's going through a checklist. He's asking her, well, did you check whether the router has been plugged in properly? Did you check whether there is a green light coming from the router? Did you restart your computer? Sometimes the issue may be lying there. And lastly, sorry to ask, but are you sure you paid your invoices, just to ensure that her contract hasn't been deactivated or something like that? But after clarifying that all these items are all fine and not presenting an issue or that would connect with the internet being down, Chris is opening up a ticket in Jira. So again, this Jira ticket then goes to One Mobile operations team, and that team will then look at the ticket. And obviously, we have a range of different activities starting from there. So first of all, obviously looking into the legacy BSS and checking whether there are any certain things that might have been wrong in terms of the setup of the contract, right? We've seen the BSS view before. If that is all fine, then he's also going further to check the legacy OSS system. There may be interruptions in the region that Simona is living in that might be able to explain this outage, but that's not the case here. He is also looking at sending a signal to Simona's router. And finally, he's figuring out that most probably the firmware of the router is outdated, and that this should actually be, a new release should be sent out to the router. So that is something with which operations can actually fix the Jira ticket. Once that's done, a firmware update has been sent to the router and is done. Notification goes out to Chris, but then also obviously to Simona. Everything's done. Chris can close the ticket, close the case in Service Cloud. But what we see is this may take up to 2 days, right? That actually means that Simona sits there without internet connection, not able to work from home. So the issue presented here is actually, I mean, we all have been working more or increasingly from home in the past years, and maybe continue doing that over the past month. So that's really an interruption in everyday work. And question again, Amir, it must be a solution to this topic, right? Something that we potentially can address again with our solution.
Yes, of course, Verena. So we have seen in the first use case already that operations team has been now freed up with some resources because of the customer onboarding, which is now completely done by the RPA bot. Also here, especially because Salesforce is now involved, we can even further improve this process and add kind of an intelligence to support the service agent here, and really free up the resources on the operations side. So what we have done is we have improved and completely automated this process. There are a couple of things we have to consider now. So first of all, in the automation area, the operations team has completely disappeared, which they are happy to do so because this is like a task they don't enjoy next to the day-to-day work. So now the automation is doing it, and the automation is in a close interaction with the service agent. So it's not like a completely automated process, which we have seen just in the first use case. Here, whenever a new case is opened and Chris cannot provide the solution by performing the checklist scenarios and so on, then he can directly from Salesforce Service Cloud trigger few checks, like if the contract is active and if the version is the right one of the router, the firmware is the right one, and additional checks like Verena was mentioning about bad weather conditions or unavailability of different services. So all these kind of checks can be performed, and then maybe this would already provide a solution because maybe she was deactivated, she didn't pay the bill, or because of the subscription upgrade something went wrong and the contract got or subscription got deactivated. So this will be set to activation again. If this is not the case, we have defined here a dedicated scenario where once we receive what is the current version of the router of Simona, um, Salesforce Service Cloud Einstein functionality will realize it, and it will come up with a recommendation called Next Best Action in Salesforce Service Cloud to upgrade the firmware on the router and push it directly from the Salesforce Service Cloud application to the legacy backend system, which will then in the OSS system, we have two modules here, and opening the router app, identifying the customer, and then really pushing the latest version of the firmware to the router, and then resolve the case and notify the customer. And once the customer is notified, and she can then do her checks and notify back the service agent team. So then Chris is able to close the case. Yeah. And this is what we have defined. And now the whole process itself can take up to 5 to 10 minutes, and we will see it in action. It's not like a completely automated scenario. It's really where we help the service agent, in our case it's Chris, to be more productive, to be more efficient without opening a Jira ticket, which has also been completely replaced here. Jira has been used only because the operation team was involved in this use case. So as the operation team has been freed up, we don't need, for this specific use case, we don't need Jira. If Jira would be required and is a must use, you can still integrate it with using MuleSoft Composer, what we have used here to orchestrate the whole interaction between the service agent and the automation part to improve this scenario. So also, as I was talking already, this is not like a fully automated scenario. We have two parts. Also in this use case, the very first part is really checking the activation, checking the firmware, and setting then, if it's not already activated, the subscription, and make it active. In the first scenario where Chris can directly trigger these backend checks and actions from Salesforce Service Cloud. And if it does not provide the solution, we have this dedicated scenario where Einstein recommends to push the latest version to the router because Simona is having an outdated version. So this is the second part, and we have created for each of these part 2 composer flows, which we will see in a second. So now we will be interacting with 2 modules, 2 UIs. One is a BSS legacy application where we have already entered the customer data. You can see here is the activation state, and as well as the subscription, which is valid. But this is important. Maybe this is not set to true. Then we can activate it. The bot can activate it. Or also what we also can check is using the customer ID, what router they have and what is the version of the software deployed on the router, and if updates are available. So this routing application gets for different kind of devices updates which can be deployed directly from here using the push update button. This is also something what in our case the RPA bot will be doing. So we will be interacting with these 2 UIs directly from Salesforce Service Cloud. So now let's go into this demo of the call from Simona. So let me open my Salesforce Service Cloud, and of course Composer need to be opened as well. So you can see already I have here 2 different composer flow. One is for getting the software version, and the other one is for putting the software version or pushing the software version directly from Salesforce Service Cloud. And we will be activating those when we need it. I have not deployed it into my demo environment. I selectively activate when I deliver a demo. So this is basically Salesforce Service Cloud. And now I get a call from Simona, and I ask her, hi Simona, how can I help you? Here's Chris. So now Simona is describing her issue to me. She has upgraded now the subscription, and she does not has internet access. So I will ask her, okay, so let me open a new case, Simona, so we can really track it, what's wrong. For me, it is a technical issue, of course. I will select a technical issue here. So now I will describe here what is actually the issue. So let's say Simona Stocker, we have here internet not working. And in the description, I can just write after upgrading or upgrading the contract, it is not working. Simona, can I ask you about your customer ID? So I have it here. So she will say exactly this is the customer ID. I can write it down here. And then I can select here also the status is new, which is fine. Simona is I found her in my account name or in my contact names, and now I have a checklist. So Simona, can you confirm that your router is connected with the right connections and cables are there as well connected, so she can do the confirmation. And these are the checks which we had on the slide, the checklist, and we have just a simple one here, so you can extend it further. So now, Chris, I can ask you, have you restarted the router? So she would say, yes, we have restarted it a couple of times, and green lights are on the router, which is actually correct. Because you were using the old subscription in your computer, have you restarted also your PC after the upgrade and the new subscription? So she said, no, let me restart. So she restarts it and again test it. It's still not working. So I say, okay, so then let me really work on this service case or on this case. So I create here this case, and now what I can do is, you can see first of all here we have the next best action. Currently Einstein says there is nothing I can help you with, but you can still perform a few checks. So I can check the software version on her router. So I will ask her, Simona, let me quickly check the software version on your router, and before I do it, I need to activate the first flow in Composer, which is a get software version. So I just put it here on test. And what is happening here basically is it will look for a specific record, which is of course in this state, retrieving info. And based on this, we will get the case information, all the fields, we will pass it to a RPA bot, which will then go into these two different application, OSS and BSS, and check the router software version as well as the activation status, then come back and fill in the data directly in Salesforce. And for our convenience, we have also dropped a Slack message, which we will be monitoring here. So the flow has been started. So let me just now say, Simona, please keep your cables connected and don't touch the browser, don't touch the router. I will just do a check on your software version and see if your subscription is active. So Simona, can you confirm that you see if few lights are blinking on your device, on your router device? Yes, she confirms it. So there are lights. So we are fetching information from this router device. And now what is going on in the background? So now Chris can continue his conversation with Simona and explain what will be going on. But technically, what is happening in background is Salesforce Service Cloud has, of course, updated here the status for retrieving info from in progress. It has switched to retrieving info. And the composer flow is now watching. Yeah? It is listening for the trigger to happen. And what is the trigger? The trigger is the update on the case, which through the retrieving info status change has been already set. So once it noticed there was this change, it will start processing the flow, and the flow will then first of all get the information from the case, the customer related information, pass it to the RPA bot. And now this RPA bot is going to run in a secured environment. Yeah? So in the first scenario we have seen, we have executed it because it was just the RPA process. But this one is running in a dedicated Windows machine, either on my environment on premise, or you can have a private cloud instance as well. And it is opening these two application, BSS and OSS, and getting the data out and then fetching the data back into Salesforce Service Cloud. And we can see it actually now. So if I refresh the case, first of all, let's refresh here. So we can see here, current router version is 2.0 for this customer ID, retrieving info to in progress. So this should be changing as well the moment I refresh the page. And we should have here these two information about contract is active and version is like this. In progress is done. So I can see, Simona, I see your subscription is actually active, but what I also see, and here the system is suggesting to upgrade your router version because you have an older router firmware version, which is 2.0. So the system is suggesting to me to upgrade your version to 3.0, which is the latest one. And most probably we will fix the issue because for the faster internet speed, we have also improved the firmware. You are currently outdated on your router. So let me push this to your system and update your router version so we can see if it is helping here. So now technically, again, I would go into the second workflow. This normally, both workflow will be deployed and activated. But as part of my demo, I'm really doing it on push. So it's a test now for the second one. Again, here is the same scenario. It will wait for a specific status from Salesforce Service Cloud, which is processing, trigger the RPA bot, and the RPA bot will then do the updates in Salesforce and drop a Slack message. For the first one, we saw already the Slack message is dropped here, as well as the comment in the Salesforce Service Cloud environment. We saw it here. And now, Simona, please keep the cables connected. I will try to push the firmware update directly from here. So I accept the suggestion from Einstein, and here it is just telling me as a service agent, this action cannot be reverted. If you push it now, it will update the change on the consumer device. So I say, yes, okay, this is fine for me. We want to fix the issue on Simona's side. So Simona, can you see something happening on your machine again? On your routing device, lights are blinking again. Yes, that's what we are doing now. So we are upgrading your instance, your firmware of the router, and bringing it to the latest version, because we believe this is the issue which will then be solved, and you will have the high speed subscription active soon, the moment the firmware is updated. So now technically, again, you can see Einstein recommendation is gone. The service cloud case is on processing. And again, Composer is listening. It is listening for the case to be updated and just get those cases out. We have a simple filter here. You can define a complex filter if you want. Get the case information and filter it, and just process these cases which are really requiring the update on the firmware. So now the RPA bot is triggered again in a secured environment, and then executing the information and updates on these OSS system to push the latest firmware to the routing device of Simona. And once this is completed, it will update the fields in Salesforce as well as drop a Slack message. So we can see here the Slack message just came in, successfully executed the software version upgrade for the customer ID. And also I see it here in the feed. It has commented the same thing what was in Slack. And if I update here, the version should be updated as well. So now, Simona, we have updated. Most probably the lights have stopped blinking. You see just a green light. Yeah, that's true. So now you can test it out. I will put this case currently on hold for now, and you can feed back to us the moment you have solved. You see that there was this improvement and you have internet again. You can already log into the internet, but I will keep it open for the next couple of hours. And if we don't hear back from you today, we will close the case automatically. If there's something, please feel free to come back to us, and we will further proceed on this case. But most probably you have internet already, and you can check and test it out and notify us via SMS or email. So thank you. And if there's anything, let us know. So now Chris has solved the issue with Simona. Simona has internet, so quick feedback, but he will leave the case on hold for now. So customer will be testing it out, and if they don't reply, or she doesn't reply today, the case will be closed. So now you may be asking, okay, what happened on this two interaction where first of all the check software version button was pressed, and I will show you what happened. This was the very first flow. So after we got this information and filtered out, okay, Salesforce is requesting the software update, this RPA bot has been executed, and I have it here already loaded. So that this RPA bot has again 4 steps. First of all, it will go into this CRM application, start the CRM application, get the activation code, and if it's not correct activated, it will set it, get the router version, the firmware, and close everything. So we have fully parameterized it here. You see here default values, but this is, we are fetching the software information as well as the activation state using the customer ID. And if this is correct, then it will return these information for us. And I will just trigger here the execution button. So this bot will be now executed here locally on this machine. And it will be in real time, it is triggered through the composer part, and doing actually this, going into the customer data and seeing, okay, the subscription activation state is activated, which is fine. So this was okay. And from here, it will go into the router and check for this specific customer using the customer ID. What is the software version, which is 2.0? We can see there was an update available. Last updated was last year. So you can say, okay, this is fine. And then these information were feedback to Salesforce Service Cloud, which actually landed then here. Activation status was checked, as well as the 2.0 version was entered. And then Einstein recommendation has realized it. We have defined these kind of logic intelligence in the Salesforce flow, which then together with the data which was prepared by the RPA bot, fed back by Composer, um, got analyzed and recommended that the version of the router is outdated. So we are suggesting to upgrade it. We accepted the suggestion and proceeded. And then the second flow was activated, which was this one. Again, very similar, but with the change that here another bot automation is running, which is pushing the router software version to the latest version on the customer device. And this is managed again in a different bot. Let me open this one. So this has been executed successfully. Let's go to the other one, which is the pushing routing version. And this one contains now less steps, of course. It has only 3 steps, where we are starting the CRM, closing it, and in the middle you have the push latest software version. Using the customer ID, we are able to identify what is the device and then push it, enter just the latest version there. Let me see, did I click now? Yes, I clicked. It's not happening anything. I hope it's not the demo devil, which sometimes is in my demos. Let me just push again. So now, okay. So now it will start the CRM application and go into the routing module. And then it will go a bit faster. You will see it will update the software version to 3.0 and also the date when it's deployed. And this OSS application will then coordinate, plan, and deploy the software router update directly on the customer device. And this has been executed. And with that, we have also automated the second scenario with the swivel chair use case, where customer service initially was opening a ticket in Jira, so the operation team can take it and really do these actions which we have seen in an automated manner and then fix the issue. In our case now, with the automated scenario, the operation team has been completely freed up with time and resources. So the automation has taken this interaction with the service agent in Salesforce Service Cloud in combination with Einstein recommendation to really fulfill this use case from the automation point of view and improve the productivity and efficiency of the Service Cloud agent or Salesforce Service Cloud agent.